Rabbi Sai Azoi, a renowned muskil, Joshua Steinberg, once approached the Netziv, the Rosh Yeshiva of Volozhin, and asked him a question. We, the men of the Enlightenment, spend so much time on our language and our dikduk, and yet we're not really your standard. You spend the whole day learning Torah, teaching Torah, and yet your language, your grammar is so superior to ours. How is that? On the spot, the Netziv responded back with his own question to Steinberg. The pasuk in Eishes Chayil says, Sadin Asusa Timkor. The textiles she makes and she sells, and yet Chagor, the belt, the external wrapping, Nasna Knani, she gives away for free to the merchant. Why on the one hand does she sell that which she makes, and yet the wrapping she gives away for free? My high. It's been less than 2 weeks since the Patira of Rav Nota Schiller, the pioneering co-founder of Ohr Somayach and its Rosh Yeshiva for over 50 years, a place where I've been privileged to teach for the last 17 years. He was raised in Brooklyn. He attended Chaim Berlin and was a graduate of Bnei Yisrael. When his Rabbi Yitzchak Hutner told him in 1963, most people say that the neshama should have an aliyah, but to you I say that your aliyah should have a neshama. I don't know if he knew quite how prophetic those words would become. Interactions with intelligent but unaffiliated young men triggered in Rav Schiller a passion to expose them to where the truth really lies in a balat of Shas Bavli. What started as Shema Yisrael in 1970 eventually became Ohr Somayach, at a time where the whole idea of kiruv or a kiruv yeshiva was totally groundbreaking. Driven by that mission, tens of thousands of young men, thanks to Rav Schiller's leadership, were exposed to the truth of Torah, and the neshamas were lit up. Now back to the Netziv. So here's how he answered the question about the pasuk in Eishes Chayil, with a mashal. There was one, the very simple Yid who lived in a small village in Russia. He wanted to become more wealthy, so he decided to follow one of his wealthy local neighbors to Moscow to see how it was that he managed to make so much money. After a long train ride, they arrived at the merchant suppliers. The wealthy man ordered a huge amount of material. When the factory brought him his order, the simple Jew noticed on the inventory that the factory had only charged him for the textiles, not for the many boxes. So he had a great idea. The next day he went back to the factory alone and asked for some empty boxes, planning to sell them for a 100% profit. When the factory demanded payment, he was crestfallen. Realizing his mistake, the factory explained to him, listen, your friend, your neighbor, that wealthy merchant, for years and years, he's been investing and buying the main stuff for us. So the wrapping we throw in for free, that's not such a large cost. But you're only interested in the external wrapping, well, for that we have to charge money. Said the Netziv to Steinberg, that's the pshat in the pasuk. The lady, she sells her wares to the merchant, but the outer wrapping, the chagor, well, he's a good purchaser, so that she gives him for free. And said the Netziv, that's the difference between you and me. All you're interested in is the outer wrapping, the dikduk, the grammar, the chitzonius. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes you work very hard for. But I myself, I spend every day, all of my resources I pour into the ikar, the Torah. I gave it the entirety of myself, body and soul. So the outer wrapping, the chitzonius, the grammar, the dikduk, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives me without having to put much effort into it. The sharpness of the Netziv. One of Rav Schiller's many qualities was his outstanding, impressive command of language and diction, whether English, Hebrew, or Yiddish.
The dominant thesis in sociological circles, in the academic world, was melting potism. Probably a term coined by a Jew, Zangwill.
It certainly helped him to make impactful relationships with important people. But I have a feeling that like the Netziv, this came to him easily, because he had dedicated his life, his body and soul to Torah, to Yiddishkeit, and to bringing HaKadosh Baruch Hu's children home. On one occasion, we asked him to come and speak in our shul in Har Nof on a Leil Shabbos. We doubled in the miklat, a bomb shelter, with no windows. And as he started to speak, the lights went out. But he just carried on. He didn't flinch, full of his typical paternal poise and confidence. My father, Zichron Livracha, was with me that night. He loved Yiddishkeit and was extremely educated and a master of English language. And he told me afterwards that the Rosh Yeshiva was the most impressive person he had ever come across. That anecdote perhaps encapsulates Rav Schiller's life mission, Ohr Somayach, to bring light to a world plunged into darkness. In 1892, the Russians tragically forced the great Netziv to close down the yeshiva which he had headed. His legacy was no longer contained in those same four walls. But Rav Schiller was zocher that his dream lives on in the beautiful Beis Medrash and the buoyant, bustling yeshiva which he leaves behind. Yehi Zichroi Baruch. Ukot Shabbos.